How are things going, Lisa?
Very well. Very well. Everything's going
I'm
very well.
so glad.
And yeah, I feel very fortunate actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all the stuff that you're doing is really so awesome. Like I absolutely love it. I think
Mm.
it's such a perfect fit for you.
It
Um
is. It is because
and
it's
so
me.
yeah, exactly. But
Mm.
so crazy that one only, comes around to these things at such a late stage and age.
Yes, and that has its own issues, okay? Because
Yeah,
my nerves
yeah,
can
yeah,
only
yeah.
take so much.
Exactly, especially when you're dealing now with like all the technological, like you have to learn. It's a learning curve.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Luckily,
So that's
I
yeah.
am I am brave when it comes to
Yeah.
technology. I won't say I'm savvy, but I'm brave.
Yeah.
But now, for the others who are watching this conversation, I need to introduce
Yeah.
you. Everybody,
Oh
this
yeah.
is Dr. Stacey Links. I am so impressed to be able to say that because I've known her since she was born.
A bit.
um, my when my daughter was born, my mom asked what I was going to name her. So I said Stacey Lee. So she said,
Yeah.
Altie and Lander's daughter is also Stacey Lee. So I said, my Stacey is without the E.
Yeah.
Only distinction I could try and make. Yeah, Stacey, it's weird that the reason that I wanted to speak to you it's
Yeah.
actually manifesting itself now. I mean, you're in the
Yeah.
Netherlands and I'm in South Africa, and I've always found it interesting that you spent your formative years as an expat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what was that like, and like reintegrating into South African
Yeah.
culture, when you returned? What's that been like?
Yeah. No, that was it had positives and it had negatives. Like all experiences that we have. Um it was, as a kid you're not even aware of what's going on, right?
Mm,
Your life is normal. Your life is what everyone is going through.
mm,
Um but yeah, it definitely presented a host of challenges in terms of reintegrating, or when we came back to South Africa at least. Um, that was a huge adjustment for me. And being at international schools, for example, now in international schools you have your yearbook, and
mm,
everyone is allocated, or with your picture, for example, in the yearbook, your country is below, right? So it would say Stacey Links, South Africa.
mm.
So a huge part of your identity from the get go is that you are South African.
Yeah, yeah.
And with your parents, embassy work, diplomatic work, that's something that's constantly reiterated, and so you don't question that, and it's part of your identity.
Mm,
And so then going back to South Africa and feeling very much South African, and having been identified as South African by others and yourself, but then constantly being put on the spot of, but why are you different? But why do you talk like that? But why do you da 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 da? But why do you live somewhere else? So,
yeah.
that as a child was, I think, very difficult to be able to understand, and it was
Mm,
kind of like you always had to um, be on the defense or explain yourself,
mm.
and you could just be in that sense.
In the way that I've grown up, I've dealt a lot with children having expectations thrust on
Mm.
them because of who their parents are,
Yeah.
and what that does to one's identity,
Mm.
because I mean, your dad was a diplomat. So
Mm.
now, does that mean that the children are diplomats too? So how
Mm.
did
Mm.
you cope with that?
Yeah, I must say, I've never, um, I never felt pressure from my parents. I never felt pressure from my parents or from anyone else in that matter, in their footsteps. I think with the diplomatic life, or moving around so much, it's more to do with what you become used to. You become used to packing up and moving every 4 years of your life.
Mm,
You become used to the instability or the unpredictability of life. And so when things become stable and predictable, that's when um, you face a lot of challenges because you get the itch, right? You feel like, okay, but something needs to change. Something,
mm,
this is too stagnant for me. I
mm,
need, you're constantly searching then for um, a new stimulus, so to
mm,
speak.
mm,
Um, so I don't even think it was expectations of that nature because, to be honest, growing up, I didn't even really have that much of an idea of it being an expectation or that it was something special or different.
mm,
Um, it was just, this is dad's job, this is what mom does, and we move around.
mm.
And so I never even thought about it in those terms. It so happens to be that my current line of work and my interests align with that. And that's kind of a chicken and egg situation,
Mm,
in terms of was the lifestyle that, or the way in which we were brought up, did that imbue in us a kind of a desire to, you know, or an interest in international politics and world affairs and these cross cultural kind of questions, um, or is that something, just genetic almost to a certain degree, or was it, subconscious in a certain manner,
mm,
or not? But if you look at my brother, he's in a completely different line of work.
mm.
um, so I think to a certain degree it is also just a personality thing too.
Mm. And sometimes, exposure
Yeah,
is something that's quite influential in one's life.
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have to be doing it. A member of your, as you said, a member of your family could be in a
Hmm.
certain line of work, and you get to see that and get to
Yeah,
experience it. And so it's
yeah,
there. It's part of your lived experience. So it's easy
yeah,
to tap into.
yeah. And you also, I mean, I even think, I often think to myself, especially nowadays when, the kind of menu of possibilities is that much bigger in life, um, for,
Yeah.
kids younger than me or generations younger than me, where I think, you know, growing up, and I'm not old by any stretch of the imagination, but growing up, there were certain things that were just off the cards. You like theater, you like singing. No, you can't make a career out of that. Are you like what?
If I had a dime for every time I've heard that.
Yeah, so the range of possibilities is also something that, uh, we were limited also just by the time,
Mm,
in terms of the time and the society, in terms of societal pressure. And maybe that's where expectations come in a bit more, where
mm,
I think, uh, the society or the community in which you grow up in, certain things are deemed, possible, and other things impossible.
exactly.
And so as a child, you're shaped by those expectations of,
Mm,
yeah, but you can't, I mean, being in theater, or doing music, what's interior design, what is that? Like, you can't make money with that.
mm,
So I think that is more, what I would say, I guess, in terms of expectations.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
So it's still dealing with you as a child, because I know you're a
Mhm.
woman now. I had to remind myself she's all grown up.
I
Um,
have to remind myself too.
um, I've always wondered also about, I'm getting to ask now all the things that I've always wondered. So
Yeah,
I've,
yeah, yeah.
I've always wondered about, you went straight from high school to your
Hmm.
undergrad, to your honors degree, master's, and then you did your PhD.
Yeah.
Um, like, who does that? Like, how did you get anywhere?
That you'd be surprised how many people do that, and maybe
Mm,
it's because, when you kind of go in that trajectory, I wouldn't say choose that trajectory, because I think it's much more of a snowball
mm,
um, scenario, where you do the one. And again, it's almost expected that you then do the next step, right?
I hear you.
And you
Yeah.
you manage quite well, and then the expectation
Mm,
is that, okay, well then you further that, and you further that. And so up until, and especially in the university environment, I mean, you do your bachelor's or you do your honors, uh there, you it also depends on who you surround yourself with, because at a certain moment, your peers are also thinking, oh, I'm going to do a master's here, I'm applying
mhm,
for this, da 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 da.
mm,
And so your environment kind of pushes you in a certain direction too.
mm,
And
mm,
again, it was it was never, and I think also because I studied international relations and international politics, you don't think, okay, I can just do a bachelor's and then get a job. No,
mm,
you need to learn more, you need to know more.
mm,
And a bit of that is imposter syndrome, where you just feel, yeah, but you just don't have the knowledge to be able to go out there and just get a job. And then a
mm,
part of it is also, a lot of people think, with studying and being in academia, that, oh, you must be so driven, you must be so, passionate about what you're doing. And to a degree, but don't overstate that either. It's
uh,
also a question of the path of least resistance. You're going through the motions, and it's just kind of the next best thing to do.
mm,
And in terms of from my master's, well, from my honors to the master's, that decision was also largely driven by the fact that I'd been in South Africa for quite some time, and I missed uh, being abroad, and I found myself kind of stagnating. So
mm,
even though I was loving being in South Africa, I had all my friends there. I couldn't imagine having to, you know, uh, do this again and leave everything.
mm,
Um, and so I kind of just wanted to force myself into the cold waters
mm,
and force myself to go out there and to reacquaint myself with the rest of the world, so to speak.
mm.
And that's how I ended up doing the masters, or rather, that was more of a motivation actually, um, than the study itself. And then with the PhD, it was also very circumstantial. It was a financial crisis. There weren't jobs.
Yeah.
It was a kind of luck of circumstances
Mm,
that led me to doing that, and led me to thinking, okay, well, maybe this is an option. Let me
yeah.
try it.
Wow. Do you hear the bird making a noise?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so sorry. Well, actually, I'm not sorry. I
No,
feel
it's
sorry for the
lovely.
bird because the bird is hated. Because
Oh,
it always makes noise at the wrong time. I mean, I'm recording and I'm at the playing this very difficult part, and it just comes right. And there the bird steps in. Oh my word!
uh,
But you did a Nelson Mandela. You got a Nelson Mandela scholarship, right? Was that for your master's or
yeah,
PhD?
yeah. That was for my master's,
Okay.
and that was also something that was kind of a last minute uh, thing, where I wasn't on top of the ball in terms of applying for things, do something and hand something in before the deadline. And it so happened to be that it turned out well in that regard. So, with so many of these things, and it may come across as though, oh, well, you just try it and then you get it. No,
Mm,
that's not quite how it works, with scholarships, or with anything that, I've ever applied for. Um, for the amount of kind of successes I've had, another 20 failures or rejection letters, or et cetera, et cetera. So
mm,
people think, especially because I have been brought up in an extremely privileged position, and with a lot of, resources at my disposal, so to speak.
mm,
Um, but in spite of that too, it's not a question of just applying once and you get it. It's hurdles and hurdles and hurdles, and a lot of rejection, and altering your path ever so slightly,
mm,
every time you get a rejection, or trying to frame it for yourself in some kind of positive way.
mm.
um, hindsight always makes it seem like this beautiful, um, you know, kind of thought through
Mm,
process or journey, but that's not
actually.
how it was experienced in any way, or how it actually was.
And that's very encouraging, and I know that it's going to be very encouraging for a lot of people, because one of the
Mm,
the issues when we're having a hard time is that we think that, or
mm,
when we deal with rejection or failure even,
mm,
we think that
mm.
it's only us, we feel like the whole
Yeah,
world is looking at us, but everybody has to deal
yeah,
with it at some point in their life.
yeah,
So I mean, whatever you're going through, whatever you're experiencing, you're not alone, you know
yeah,
um, and it
for
doesn't
sure.
mean because somebody appears successful to you that it's been a smooth ride. We just never know.
No,
you know
no, and I have that, even with my with colleagues and peers that have achieved, in my eyes, so much more, or do things so seamlessly.
mm,
Um, and but knowing them on a very deep and personal level, I know that things are definitely not what they appear to be on the
mm,
outside, and that each person has so many struggles that they go through,
mm,
internally, socially, societally, um, from a family or relationship perspective. And so, we all have our challenges, and like you say, you can't get through life without failures.
exactly.
um, some people, for sure, there is, um, as one would say, there is this idea and this concept, not even idea, but this reality of privilege, and for sure
Mm, mm,
that is something that affords one many more opportunities. But what you do with that um, is also a big question, because you can have all the privileges in the world, and only try or only attempt at things once, and it won't get you far enough, so to speak.
using what you have. We have to talk
Mm.
about your piano playing, and I want people to see your whole face. So I saw an
Yeah,
Instagram, not an Instagram, a Facebook
Facebook
post,
probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
where you played something, and it was not played in 1982, it was now. And I was like, what? What? I didn't even know that I kind of thought, worked out that you read music,
Yeah,
but I didn't
yeah.
know that you played the piano. I would have been much more nervous at your wedding if I had known that you also play.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no, I mean, I think quite a few people are surprised by that, which always surprises me, because we have a piano at home. My dad's a piano player. My brother is very musical, and yeah,
Hmm.
I started playing when I was 6.
Really?
I'm no Yeah, with for lessons, everything. I even did a few exams. I remember, still in Pretoria. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like the whole examination, aspect
Uh,
of it. Um, and yeah, I wasn't great or anything, but it's something that I definitely
nice.
enjoyed, and my parents definitely pushed me in that regard. And I remember there were phases where I really hated it. I absolutely hated it. And my parents would always say, when you're 16, then you can stop. But up until then, you're going to take lessons. And so it was a very love hate relationship,
Mm,
with lessons and playing and having to practice and da 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 da. But in the end, of course, I'm extremely grateful for it.
mm,
Um, and even with my little one now, I think to myself, no, but he has to. Just because it's something that you can turn back to later on in life. Do I play to the extent that I would want to? Absolutely not. um and I
but it's something
struggle.
you have,
Yeah,
it can
yeah,
never be taken away from you. I
yeah,
think that's the beauty of music, and investing a little effort,
yeah,
in
yeah,
a child's formative years in music. I remember my first two piano students. I was 16.
yeah,
I was in yeah, I was in grade 11. I was 16.
Yeah.
And our
Oh
next door
wow.
neighbor said that she would like her two sons to take piano lessons. They were like, what, 6 and 7? And they didn't
Mm.
want to. And I didn't know what to do. Like, just do it. Your mommy said you must do it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the one would
Exactly.
sit at the piano and like mumble without opening his mouth.
Yeah.
Why do I have to do this? So so
So
I
funny.
just think that everybody that I've spoken to in the past who's had some kind of musical influence in their
Yeah.
childhood years has come to say that in their adulthood, they might not be utilizing it like 150%, but
No,
whatever
yeah.
way it can be utilized, it's there. It won't leave you.
For
You
sure.
know?
For sure. And I mean, I have friends who, to this day are jealous in that regard that I have that.
Mm,
And that when I am feeling bored or whatever, or I'm sick and tired of watching another series or being on my phone again,
mm,
I can actually do something that stimulates my brain in such a fundamentally different way.
mm.
Um, and yeah, I really appreciate having that as a resource, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah. So coupled with the piano was another post that I saw of yours on Facebook that I thought
Yes.
I must ask you about. I I didn't realize how politically aware you are until I read a
Yeah,
couple of your posts. But the one in
yeah,
particular that resonates with me is where
yeah.
you spoke about your own experiences with hair as an
Mm,
issue. You know,
yeah.
and I fully relate. In fact, I've done a whole production about my hair. Okay.
Wow.
So what's been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, hair is extremely political. I think it's one of the
Thank
most
you for saying that.
political things out there, and yeah, and I've always been, I guess, politically aware, also as a product of my. And when I say political, I don't mean political party versus certain ideology,
Mm,
et cetera, but more political in terms of how our actions and who we are, how they shape um, our reality and how people perceive us, and where our place in society.
mm,
Um, and I think with the moving around, um, there were a lot of issues in terms of, uh, firstly, coming back to South Africa. So issues of identity in terms of race, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, and race classification, and
Yeah.
trying to unpack that and understand that for yourself as a child. Um, but then also hair. I think like any uh, colored community or family, you get the girls with a good hair, the girls with the not so good hair, the cousins with a good hair, the cousins with the not so good hair. So that very quickly becomes, your identity without you even knowing it. It's
Mm,
imposed on you,
mm,
um oh, but your hair's so beautiful, or whatever the case may be, or even my mom saying, "Hey, go like your hair after school," because now it's
yeah.
standing
The
here and
sun
there,
rays.
and you know, yeah, exactly. So you're made aware of your hair from a very young age,
Mm,
and it is politicized because it impacts so much, your perception of yourself, your self-esteem. In some spaces it would be that I was, the one with the good hair. In other spaces, with white friends with lily whites, fair skin, and blonde hair, my hair was an absolute challenge, and I
mm.
wanted to, just shave it all off, and I wanted to have nice straight hair and not have these cruces here in the front, etc., etc. Um, yeah, and I mean, in the South African context, it's also, hair is so politicized. I'll never forget, in at high school, I in South Africa, there was a huge thing that erupted because I decided to put my hair in cornrows.
I
and
actually
I
remember
had my
that
hair
time.
braided in cornrows, and I went to school, and it was it. Everyone just lost their marbles, and I was called into the principal's office because how and why am I wearing my hair like that? And the
Oh,
issue was that, yes, but as a colored girl, I am not allowed to wear my hair in an African style.
whoa.
Yes. And
Oh,
there was a huge uproar about the whole issue, so much so that it became an issue where a whole kind of PTA meeting was set up, and all the teachers were there. My parents were there. I was there. And my dad had to really, get up and stand up and say, this is absolutely ludicrous.
mm,
These rules and regulations are archaic. They don't
mm,
hold any water, any weight.
mm,
Um, and so now what? Now children need to prove what kind of hair they have, and what are you even on about?
mm,
You know,
mm.
it's just, yeah. So I've hair has really been a thing, a defining thing for me, to a large degree too.
Oh my goodness, though, you brought the whole school to its knees, No, my
Yeah.
experience wasn't that hectic, but I was told that I can't wear my
Yeah.
hair like it is to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah. That's
I
it's
had to do whatever I
crazy.
must do to it. And I mean, this is my hair. This is
Hmm.
actually my hair, not the blow
Yeah.
dried. I know you
No,
said something
exactly.
PG. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the the I just find it interesting that in South Africa, well, it's certainly in my community or in my circles,
Mm.
we're not yet comfortable referring to our
No.
natural hair with pride. And I think
No,
it's
and
it's
that's,
still a long
yeah.
way. We've still got a long way to go. As
Yeah,
far
and
as
I mean, I remember also, being at home, and whenever, you would wear your hair curly or so, um, or when you would blow out your hair rather, that people would say, "Oh wow, but that's beautiful. Oh, you look so nice. This looks
precisely.
much nicer." You know, and
Oh, I've heard that so many times.
when you have your hair just, air dried and
Mm-mm,
curly, and it's like, "Wat gaan we on? Like, what's going on?" You're just not looking fresh. You're not looking put together. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, in our community at home, I think there's still a lot of self discovery to happen in terms of pride of one's natural states, etc.
Yeah. I guess so
Yeah.
much of um, your natural affinity for diplomacy, which you may not even recognize yourself. But I hear
No.
how you say, yeah, no, people must still come right, but you said it in a very, very beautiful way. So latching onto that, I mean, our time is almost up,
Yeah.
but latching
Oh
onto
well.
that, you are
Yeah.
a mom, you have a husband that adores you and your boy. Um, you what are your plans for the future? I mean, I'm just throwing in there that South Africa does need a female president at some point. So I'm just like, yeah, in your
Just
line of work and so
planting
on.
seeds.
What are your plans?
Yeah, so when it comes to plans, I'm actually a very bad planner, and I'm not someone who, I mean, I have friends who really have, long-term visions and goals, and very concrete um, things that they want to achieve and places that they want to be
Mm,
in or at.
mm,
Um, and I've never really thought like that. I'm more of a dreamer in terms of, um, I'd like to be living comfortably. I'd like to be able to summer here and to winter there. I would love to go back to South Africa at some point. I would absolutely love that.
mm,
But the situation and the circumstance needs to be right. And I guess kind of how I've lived my life up until now in terms of, just snowballing through life,
mm,
is kind of my expectation for how and where I will land up. Who knows? Uh,
mm.
I know that I would love to be closer to family, closer to home. No amount of time spent abroad will make me less South African in my kind of heart of hearts, and home will always be South Africa for me.
Oh,
Um,
that is so beautiful.
so yeah, so that's, that's always a dream of mine, to be back home or to go back home. But it's also something where I don't need to be physically there for South Africa to be my home either.
Mm, mm.
Um, so right now the focus is on the little one, I guess, mostly.
Well,
I'm
your
trying to
parents'
get
focus
myself.
certainly is on him.
Yes. Oh
They're
my
so
goodness.
proud.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's definitely the best thing that's happened to them. Um, but yeah, I just kind of will see where the wind blows me. For now, I have a lot of more short term um, career goals of my own, um, that hopefully will also see me in South Africa more often. I make sure that my career goals are aligned with what's happening at home, so I can have one foot at home and one foot over here.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome,
Yeah,
man. You know, I find I find it interesting speaking, having a conversation with people that I don't usually get to speak to.
yeah,
But
yeah,
even more interesting when I know the person and I actually
yeah,
discover something new about them. So
yeah,
to me,
yeah.
you strike me as someone who has an appreciation for life. You strike me as a person who is a lot easier about life than I anticipated.
Mm,
All your accomplishments,
yeah.
it would be easy, and we could forgive people for thinking she's a, like this person, but you're not.
Yeah.
You're relaxed. You have
No,
an
not at all.
artistic expression. Uh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you see the world calmly, much more calmly than me,
Yeah.
for instance.
Yeah.
But I think that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
I want to say that I hope that you will have some role in South Africa in the future. I do hope it's a leadership role.
Oh, that's
And I
so
mean,
nice.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the presidency, although that would be ideal, but just some way in which you could encourage, as you are doing right
Yeah.
now, somebody else,
Yeah.
to actually just take life, what you're presented with, make good
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. And I
yeah.
think, like, I do love talking to uh I really don't it's so crazy because in my head I'm still 17 years old, but I love talking to people who are younger, um because they really do I like sharing my experiences, and
Mm,
if people can learn from it, then great. And I also
mm,
like exchanging with other people and younger people because they do see the world uh differently in a lot of ways.
mm.
um and so, yeah, leadership is something that I value. I don't see myself as a leader, I must say. um but I do enjoy a good chat, and yeah, I'm just, I guess, very frank. What you were saying about I seem much more relaxed. Yeah, I'm very much a procrastinator and a child at heart, and yeah, I so this potential image of me being super hardworking.
Not so much.
Yeah,
Oh my
no, no, no.
goodness. But thank you so much, Stacey. It feels weird
Yeah,
saying
thank
Stacey to
you.
somebody else that's not my daughter. Um,
Yeah.
I really appreciated this time, and I hope that everybody has enjoyed. Well, I know that everybody has enjoyed just getting into
Oh,
you a
super
little
nice.
bit.
Yeah.
We hardly get to hear from you, um, and I hope everything goes well. I hope motherhood treats you well, and married life
Yeah.
treats you well, and that the
Yeah.
Netherlands treats you well, but not too well.
Too.
There must be a part of you that still misses home.
No, I hope that I can come home. Well, we're trying to see if we can come home in December, just at least for my parents. I think Eltie is struggling a little without the the grandson. and alone at home with Landa. So we're gonna see if we can make it work. But but yeah, it'll be nice, you know, once this madness is over, this Corona madness. We're still in heavy lockdown on this side, actually. Um, but yeah, hopefully then we'll also have learned a few lessons, you know, from all of this, and all have
Hopefully.
grown a little.
Yeah, hopefully. But
Yeah.
thanks so much for making this
Thank
time. I
you so
really
much.
appreciate it.
Thanks so
Okay
much,
then. Ciao,
Lisa.
ciao.
Bye.
Bye.